College football has a really long offseason, which means it gives me lots of time to post a lot of videos talking about a number of topics. Well, one of the topics I talked about consistently this offseason was my thoughts on USC. Now, if you watched any of my videos from the offseason, you would have known where I stood on this Trojans team entering the 2024 season. Spoiler alert, I didn't think they would be all that good. And spoiler alert, I was really wrong on them. Before we get to today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. Having watched and followed the Trojans for all my life, last year was probably one of the more disappointing seasons that I could remember for them. They had national championship aspirations, and instead, they were playing in the San Diego Holiday Bowl. Entering the 2024 season, they were losing former Heisman and #1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, so of course, I thought they were going to be a lot worse than they were last year. There was a lot of hype surrounding this USC team all offseason, and they were in the top 25 AP poll to begin the season. Again, I talked about it a couple weeks ago, saying that USC had no business being ranked inside the top 25, and that week 1 would probably be their only week inside the top 25. They had a downgraded quarterback, I didn't know how their offense was going to look, and their defense, which was one of the worst in all of college football last year, was probably going to suck again in 2024. Well, all it took was 1 week for me to be proven wrong. On Sunday, USC pulled off the upset as they took down number 13 LSU, winning 27-20. Now, this is already the best game of the college football season, and I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the year, this is still considered to be the best, or at least in the top 3 to 5. I'm pretty sure I'm on record saying that LSU was going to blow USC out of the water, and that the Trojans didn't stand a chance in this game. So with how harsh I was on the Trojans all off season and entering this game, I have to come out and issue an apology and admit that I was wrong on this team. Now, USC surprised me on both sides of the ball, but I'm going to start on offense because I did not think Miller Moss was this good of a quarterback. We saw what he did to Louisville in the Holiday Bowl last year, but that was a bowl game, a lot of starters weren't playing, you can't really put too much stock into that game. Well, against LSU in his first major start, Miller Moss threw for just under 400 yards while completing 27 of 36 passes. He looked like a veteran quarterback out there, not a guy that has very little experience under his belt. I mean, there were points during the offseason I wasn't even sure if he was going to win the quarterback job. I mean, if you just look at his last 2 games that he started, he's thrown for, 800 yards and like 6 or 7 touchdowns? That's a pretty solid 2-game sample size. So if this is the kind of quarterback that USC is going to be getting for 2024, I think they're in really good hands because Miller Moss looked like one of the 5 to 10 best quarterbacks in all of college football this weekend. So although Miller Moss really impressed me, I think my biggest takeaway was USC's defense. Now, if you look at the box score, you probably won't be all that impressed. They did allow 22 first downs, and they allowed over 420 yards of offense. But there were numerous times in this game in which USC's defense stepped up and made the big plays when they needed to. I mean, if you watched USC at all last year, that was one of the worst defenses in all of college football, and whoever they were playing, well, they did whatever they wanted against USC. Whether it was running the ball, whether it was throwing the ball, whatever it may be, any offense that was facing this defense last year had whatever they wanted. And that wasn't the case this past weekend. Now, I get it, LSU's team isn't quite the team it was last season. They did lose a lot of talent. They lost their Heisman winning quarterback. They lost a couple of really talented wide receivers, but this is still a really solid LSU Tigers team. And yet, USC's defense made a number of big-time plays, and ultimately, that's what won them the game. Miller Moss throwing for 400 yards was sure great, but USC's ability to hold this LSU offense to only 20 points, that's absolutely crazy. I mean, the over-under in this game was 67 points for a reason. People thought that LSU was going to hang at least 40, myself included. Instead, they're only able to score 20 points. Yeah, that was an insane performance from this USC defense. Now, under Lincoln Riley, we know that USC is going to consistently have a really good offense. Their downfall over the last couple of years has been their defense. Like I talked about, last season, they were one of the worst in all of college football. They went out this offseason and brought in new defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn from UCLA. He turned UCLA around, and they had one of the better defenses in all of college football under him. Well, it looks like USC is on that same path. Again, it's only 1 game, but there is a lot to like about this USC Trojans team. If their defense can play the way they did this past weekend against LSU, I actually believe that USC could be a legitimate playoff contender. And again, that's pretty remarkable for me to say considering I was out on them all off season. Before we get to the rest of today's video, I'd like to share with you guys how you can make the college football season more exciting and even win some money. I've partnered with Underdog Fantasy to bring you this amazing deal. If you download the Underdog Fantasy app and use promo code Harris, they'll match your first deposit up to $1,000. That's right, they're giving you up to $1,000 of free money. You can choose your favorite players from every game and decide whether or not they'll go higher or lower than their projections. So to add a little extra excitement to every game and win some money, make sure to use promo code Harris for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 at Underdog Fantasy. You guys can also sign up using the link in my description as well. Now, the hardest part about games like this is the fact that it's only week 1. We only have 1 week of a sample size on both these teams. LSU could end up being a really bad team this year, and this win doesn't mean a whole lot. Or USC could have just played their best game of the season and they could finish the season around 7-5. So until we get more games from both these teams, we're truly not going to know how impactful of a game this was. I mean, it's going to be quite the test for USC because they have a really difficult schedule. In a couple of weeks, they got to go to Michigan and play the Wolverines. And that is probably going to be their biggest test of the entire year. Then you fast forward a couple weeks and they host a top 10 team in Penn State. Then towards the end of the season, they got to go on the road to Washington, on the road to UCLA, and they host number 5 Notre Dame. If USC is somehow able to make it through this schedule with only 2 losses, I am going to be more than impressed. I mean, clearly if they make it through this schedule with 1 or 2 losses, they are going to be a playoff team, and they potentially could be playing in the Big Ten championship. Also, that is still really gross to say. Please, some powerful god out there, bring the Pac-12 back together, please. USC playing in the Big Ten and playing on these Big Ten opponents, this is not college football. This is so stupid. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see because this schedule is really going to test USC. If they're able to pick up victories against these kind of opponents, it'll just show that they're a legitimate team. But if they come out and they lose to Michigan, they lose to Penn State, they lose to Washington, they lose to Notre Dame, maybe this game was a fluke after all, maybe they just got hot, maybe they made all the right plays, and maybe we put way too much stock into only 1 game. But I wanted to post this video talking about USC because, again, I hated on them all off season. They proved me wrong. They were probably my biggest surprise of the entire weekend, and I just wanted to tip my cap to the Trojans. So what are your thoughts on USC? Are you like me and you were completely wrong on them? Or did you think they were going to be this good entering the year? Also, does it take 1 game for you to fully buy into them, or do you want to wait until we see how they look when they play Michigan in a couple of weeks? Whatever your thoughts are on the USC Trojans, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting college football videos every day during the season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video and my channel with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.